Hi, I'm Jeff Yarger. I'm a professor of chemistry, biochemistry, and physics at Arizona State University.
Hi, I am Subhadeep. I am a teaching assistant for this course and I am a graduate student in School of Molecular Sciences.
So Subhadeep, you've been a teaching assistant for 341, the online class, now twice?
Mm-hmm. Twice, yeah.
So we've been doing this now for over a year together. And in this, you would say, quite a lot has evolved. Like ASU has switched from its main LMS system being Blackboard to
Canvas.
what I'm looking at now, which is Canvas. And within Canvas, there's been numerous third-party applications that have been available. And we're going to talk about one specific today that we've started using extensively in BCH341 online, which is YellowDig. So what I really want this video to do is just for the students this semester and hopefully in future semesters, just kind of introduce a couple of our teaching philosophies, where this class is online, and some of the tools available to them, et cetera. And so, it starts with all ASU online classes use Canvas. And so that's always going to be the jumping off point. This is my specific one where I have a sandbox for development stuff, but here's the course that we're teaching right now as we record this video, which is the fall semester A session of BCH 341, the online course. And this is something any student registered should have access to. And when they click it, I've limited to a very specific set of things where we provide all announcements on here. So any major announcements they need to know about, they can set up their Canvas where it notifies them either with email or text or however they want through my.asu.edu. To show how important it is, we use a social communication third-party system called YellowDig. It affectionately gets called ASUdig by ASU, which we're going to discuss in a second. We give access to the syllabus both here as well as on a website I make available. And then ASU Online likes to do things in modules. We're teaching a half semester course, so it's basically 7 modules. And so we try to organize everything in that realm. There's usually quizzes associated with each module, but it's kind of separate here. These assignments are mainly, at least in our course, exams and projects. Of course, they want to have access to, what their current grades are in the course, accessibility for people with closed caption, et cetera, a few other resources. The time in Arizona, because they could be taking this from anywhere in the world, and we do a lot based on, time restrictions here. Zoom, which is zoom.us, is a video conferencing webinar platform so that we can have virtual office hours and interact with students in kind of a video conferencing fashion, et cetera. And so that's kind of some of the main things. Now, I like to make things also completely accessible just on an open source platform. And so I do that at biopchem.education. And I have all the past semester courses here, and of course the one we're doing now, where again I give the syllabus and I give just a whole, what I would say, all the relevant details they need. So it's almost reproducing what's on Canvas here, where again, like if for some reason ASU Canvas went down or something, this is a completely independent source to be able to get everything associated with the course, given that you could be anywhere in the world taking this course. And I think most of it's fairly self-explanatory, getting around this course using these websites. But really where I wanted to focus a little of our attention today is what's become more and more of a resource, which is communication is vital in this in an online course. And it has to be radically different than on-ground courses where in-person, office hours and stuff that, these very traditional kind of meetups and in-person things have to be substituted. And it can be challenging. And it's challenging to make those where they have the same quality and personal interactions that you can do in person. But I would argue that technology's really we're at a golden age for it really catching up. And most people with the technology in their hand, having both cameras and decent audio, with just a few simple, headphones and quality. I mean, we're used to FaceTiming and or, conferencing with people. People use Snapchat all the time, etc. Like, these are getting much more doable. Yeah. And one of the resources we use is YellowDig. Yeah. And it's evolved quite a lot. And so, in fact, you can even tell, you could pinpoint when this is because there's a hurricane going on.
Yes.
And we have to worry about that, even though it's not affecting Arizona at all. It's affecting the East Coast, and we have quite a few students on the East Coast. Yes. It's really, I've made a couple other introductory videos, but it's really, we've evolved how we've used YellowDig, and it's become basically the primary communication source in the course. How have you been, instructing students to use YellowDig lately?
Yeah, of course. As you mentioned, like this semester, I would say in the beginning, even from the beginning, it's a very good response in YellowDig. Even they are communicating between themselves, and that's the point we want, right? Like, we want students to communicate not only with us, but with themselves, because in in-person class, they communicate with themselves when they meet up in the class. But here, all the students are from different parts of the world, right? As you mentioned, someone from the East Coast and maybe someone from the Arizona, but they could not meet. But even with this platform, they can talk to each other. And another good thing, I would say, this YellowDig has this anonymous posting feature. So sometimes I saw students who are kind of shy to ask any simple question in front of the audience. So that's the good option for them. They can anonymously post any questions they have, and they will get the answer for it.
Well, and one of the reasons we use this, I mean, let's face it, this is a lot like a lot of other social networks that they probably already use, something like a Facebook, for example. But what is unique about this is this was really designed with education or instruction in mind, and allows you to give participation points, which we use. Yeah. And it passes through right back to Canvas. I'm not going to go through the specifics of how we're using it this semester. It's clear to any student. They can look up this on YellowDig directly. But we can give a maximum number of points per week. We can pass it through. We can, so that they're encouraged to give participation, because part of their grade is associated with it, even if they do things anonymously. Yeah. Because while it's anonymous to all the other participants, their peers and stuff, it's still tracked within YellowDig, and participation points are given. So like you said, even for students who might be apprehensive because they're worried that it seems like a stupid question, which I would argue there isn't any stupid questions, but I still get people's fear of just being called out, right? Yes. And this gives them even a way to do that. Now, I would still encourage students that have something of a very personal nature, that is very independent and personal, and definitely wouldn't involve anyone else in the course, to email us individually. Yeah, of course. Yeah. But all other things that are not of a personal, individual nature, I think I'm always surprised how even what a lot of students are very hesitant to put as questions, they get immediate responses to. They have immediately other students verifying, I wanted to know the same thing. Yeah. Thank you for asking that, etc. And like you said, like, while we try to stay on top of it as instructors, when you have hundreds of students in the course, it's amazing to watch the peer-to-peer interactions. Yes. And oftentimes it's hard for us to respond fast enough before peers are able to help each other.
Exactly. And I mean, that's a good thing, I guess. They're interacting more and helping each other,
Yeah, exactly.
And if I remember correctly, I think we have increased the YellowDig participation point from the previous semester to this semester. And
every semester I keep going more. In fact, I found it so much, because at the end of the semester when I asked what did students like and stuff, it's getting over this communication, which often limits a lot of online classes. And so they really appreciate this. So I tend to make it, and the sophistication of it has gotten where it's become very seamless and easy for anyone to use. So you're right, where once was just kind of wasn't worth any points at all. There was no participation, and then it was a small amount. And now every semester it keeps growing because I really want almost all communication to funnel through this. I think it really helps the peer-to-peer learning process.
Yes, I agree.
So I think, just while we're on this, for people who are, in the middle of it now or going to do it in the future, and one of the things that can be daunting is it has kind of a feed similar to what you would say is kind of a news feed in Facebook, and it can be kind of daunting. Like you can, with hundreds of students in a class, but they really do give quite a few methods to pick certain topics, to search things, to add filters where you can look. And you just, in fact, made me aware of one that you can click on this unread only, so you see only the ones that have not had any, that you have not looked at and responded to yet, et cetera. So to make sure you're not filtering through a bunch of stuff that you've already seen, et cetera. So they really do, and we try to make quite a few tags or labels so that you can navigate this quickly, even with a lot of information. Of course, the main component of this is students can make new pins. They can respond to pins, and a lot of this is worth participation points. And then the one thing I want to, I won't say harp on, but say that we keep implementing newer and newer instructions is it's become so useful. What I would say is, just like nowadays, you can't imagine almost handwriting something and posting it if it was just text. We can type so much faster, even on phones. Like when we text message, we use a typeset. But yet, oftentimes when we go back to mathematics, equations and stuff, we still tend to want to handwrite it and take a picture of it and upload it or something like that. I'm guilty of it myself. With this setup right here, that's what you'd say is one of the things a lot of us still do, which is so that we can write. But I would say we're really at that point now where there are enough tools. Typesetting directly in, for example, the comment streams here allow you to put direct annotated typeset mathematics using a LaTeX type formalism, which is very commonly used for mathematics. And it doesn't take very long to get kind of familiar with it at all, using this open rich text editor. And it even gives some help sessions. When you look at this, it'll that you can use to help you support LaTeX, et cetera, to do this. And it's the one thing I've kind of, in the past, I've let students off the hook with, which was letting them post things because it was hypocritical not to. I was posting a lot of things that were handwritten. Now I'm trying to make a conscious effort that we all use typesetting. And while you can do it directly here in YellowDig, this then begs the question of doing it in whatever other programs you're using to say work exams or PDFs, et cetera. And that's where I would say I'm going to post some both blogs and some stuff specific for this course that goes through that in detail. And what I'll lastly show is, for example, one thing I use quite often, which is just an online LaTeX editor called HostMath. And again, it's an equation editor freely available to anyone, just to go to hostmath.com. And you can easily see that you can typeset a type of equation like this and see what it would look like. If you want that to look bigger, you can go to formatting. You can make it huge, for example, and see that that's the command to do it, /huge, and it makes it this size. If we wanted to make it bold, we could do that. If we don't want it bold, we could remove that, et cetera. You could do all sorts of, if you're not familiar with LaTeX at all, which most students won't be starting out this, in other words, what these commands are, how to make a capital delta, Greek delta, equivalent for a 3, and equal a 3. It has a whole bunch of math input to kind of show you some of these things and common symbols, like, for example, partial derivatives, which are common in the class we're teaching at the moment, et cetera. And this will give you where you can literally now either cut and paste this into YellowDig, or you can take this typeset equation and put it into your Word or Google Docs or PowerPoint or PDF documents, et cetera, so that you can easily now, there's more and more tools to be able to typeset things explicitly. very conveniently, and I, what all I would say is while it takes a little bit of time to get used to this, to me it's well worth it, because now there is no problem with having to recognize handwriting and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
So hopefully that at least introduces some of that. And like I said, I'll put more of that information, not only for people this semester on Canvas, but on something that should stay up for semesters to come, which is at biopchem.education. So, well, thanks today, and I hope this video helps several people when they're being introduced to some of the online resources for physical chemistry with the biological focus at ASU.